Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to week 4 of Insane Productivity with Mortgage Coach Mastermind event. Everybody on this call has invested in Darren Hardy's Insane Productivity program. It is an early release, so it's Darren's core content. The Mortgage Coach content has not been added yet, although I will say the videos have come in from the thought leaders that we've invited, and they're just awesome. Helping me facilitate and lead today's call, we've got Jen DuPlessis. Jen, welcome to the call.
Thank you. Glad to be here again. Thank you so much for asking me to join.
Yeah, well, thanks for all the leadership last week. While I wasn't on all of it, you rocked it out. You brought so much great leadership, and the videos that you created for the program are just awesome. I think mortgage professionals are going to really appreciate your perspective as an originator. You're helping make it very relevant for a loan officer in the role that we have. So really appreciate that, Jen.
Thank you.
We also have Kristen Messerly. Kristen, millennial leader Kristen. I know you're going through the program, Kristen, and thanks for being on here to help provide some leadership and value.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. And then looks like we got Cindy Erdman. Cindy just got back from Alaska. Cindy, I've been checking out your pictures on Facebook. Looks like you and your boys are having a great time.
We had an awesome time, Dave. It was fantastic.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that life experience with your kids, man. It looks like you guys just crushed it in Alaska. Yeah,
it was priceless. One of those trips you'll never forget. It was worth every bit of commitment, to be together. And to get, 3 20-something-year-olds together for 10 days is pretty insane itself. So I was excited. It was fun. Thanks.
No, I was thinking about that. My son's going to be a freshman in high school. My daughter's going to be a senior. And I was like, I hope I could pull that off when they're in their 20s. I put it on my bucket list,
That's cool.
Yeah. So, and then we've got Coach Bill Hart on today's call. Bill and I are really going to co-facilitate this. Of course, as I've told everybody on this call before, the key is participation and engagement. We want you to participate, engage, and ask questions. But Bill, welcome to the call, and thanks for helping me facilitate this.
Oh, my pleasure to be here, Dave. Excited about today.
Right on. So let's kick it off, guys. On my screen, you should be able to see our private Facebook group. I have posted a question, which is, what module have you completed? It looks like we could do better on the engagement. So not that I want everybody to necessarily be multitasking or, again, as Darren would call it, switching, going from one task to another. We do want to have an engaged community, and we want to make sure we're communicating with each other during this call. So it looks like, we could have a little bit more engagement in terms of what module are you on. We are going to try to unmute folks. I do want to remind you, as we unmute you, please try to control the mute on your side. Marcy, if you could unmute everybody, and let's see what happens, and then let's start a conversation. Bill, all right, we'll start weeding out the people. So you notice when we unmuted, some people add background music or background sound. Make sure you're controlling that on your side, because we've got 15 plus attendees. Actually, we have over 20 people on this call, and the more we can unmute everybody, the more interaction. So, Liz, how are you doing? Liz Sawyer.
Hey, doing great. Doing great. Thanks.
And how are you enjoying the Insane Productivity program?
Well, so I'm doing maybe half as well as I should be doing. I'm listening to the modules with the goal to go back and listen uninterrupted. So I'd say I get maybe a C plus for it.
All right. Not bad. Hey, at least you're jumping out and doing it. So by the way, folks, I've got Danny Branny in the office, or not in the office, we're in his hotel room. Danny is visiting Portland, Oregon, and we're broadcasting live out of a hotel in Portland. What's up, Danny?
Good morning, everybody.
So Danny, how are you digging the program so far?
I'm loving it. And I mean, just this last module 4, the multitasking one, was super eye-opening. I mean, I think we all, I can speak for myself, and probably a lot of people, signed up for this program because they wanted to get just a little bit more efficient and a little bit better. And the idea that with one action, you can get 28% better. Just, knowing that I'm losing that much productivity from moving from task to task and saying yes to everybody that comes to the door of my office and asks for a minute, it's just crazy, crazy opportunity.
Right on. So let's kind of go around. So the facilitators, I want I'm going to call you out. If you could share what you thought was a takeaway so far, either it could be a reminder for Module 3 or something that you really want to shine a light on for Module 4. And then let's ask folks a question and just, we'll just kind of go from question to question, topic to topic. Danny, you'll go in about 3 times. But Bill Hart, let's start with you. I know you reviewed Todd Bookspan's notes. Todd couldn't make it here to facilitate. But what do you think we should shine a light on? Any reminders and any questions?
Well, I mean, I think the irony of the focus of Module 3 and the brief conversation we just had up front about chiming in on the poll that you did on Facebook is, while I totally get the let's not multitask, I think it's really relevant to just let's all agree that if you're on this call and you're going through these modules, it's not about being in, it's about being all in. And so if you're all in, what that means is we all have to, and I'm including myself in this, make the time, sequester ourselves, create margins so that we've got the ability to go deep, uninterrupted on these modules and get the best out of it. If you're going to inject yourself into a program, an elite program like this, like be all in. So that's kind of my personal admonition to myself, and I'm telling all of you I'm going to do the same thing. And to just say, take a moment right now and just look at this as this is part of the exercise that we're doing. Go to that Insane Productivity with Mortgage Coach Mastermind page on Facebook and just quickly just chime in, and don't be embarrassed. Just if you haven't started, you haven't started, but it's helpful for us to be able to best serve you by knowing where you're at with the program. So Dave, I would just say it's completely in line with everything around Module 3. You get in life what you tolerate, right? Life will organize around the standards that you set. So let's just look at this right now as kind of an Olympian moment, like we're all gonna raise the bar together. Is that fair?
I love it. And that, by the way, that for Module 3, that was a big takeaway I had was, you get in life what you tolerate. And when Darren said that, and I started thinking of all the things that I tolerate from different people in my life, professionally and personally, that, just take me off course or, don't make me the best leader because I'm tolerating things that I just know I shouldn't be. I thought that was huge. And when I started this mastermind and I made this commitment, I made the commitment, one, because I wanted to, help us all learn better together. But two, I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring some accountability into the program. So, Bill, that's really timely. And I just ask everybody on the call, are you all in? Is this just going to be another learning experience where you went through the motions, you listened, you took some notes, but you didn't keep all the promises to yourself? Or is this going to be that thing that you really go deep, you go all the way, you keep your promises to yourself? I love that, Bill. Bill, you're a coach, so this is conversation you have a lot with folks where, they told you what their promises were, they told you what their meetings were, they told you what their non-negotiables, and then you get on the phone with them next week and they don't. How do you bring tough love? Like, give us some tough love right now as a coach. I know you kind of started that, but what would you really say to us as a coach if we just weren't keeping our promises and executing? How would you have that conversation?
So great question. And so I want each of you that's on the call right now to imagine that I'm your coach and I'm just talking to you. And you've just told me why this thing didn't get done, or you gave yourself kind of a mid-level grade on the thing that you said you were going to do. And I would absolutely call you out on your stuff. Now, I can tell you 13 years ago when I started as a coach, I probably wouldn't have done that. I wanted to be liked too much, which is something else Darren talks about here, right? And so now I recognize that, the people that pay me aren't paying me to be their friend. The friendship naturally develops outside of that. But when I'm their coach, they're paying me to call them out. And so I set them up front, Dave, that it's like you're going to come into this coaching session with one of two things, either reasons or results. Let's go for results. That's what it's about. And if you don't want to do that, I've got people that are waiting to be coached that I'd like to bring on. So I try and bring kind of this, I want them out of their comfort zone and a little off balance with me. And they know that I'm doing it in love, right? So I will always come back around and say, I'm not just being a hard ass to be a hard ass. That's not what I'm about. What I want to do is I want to be the one person in your life that speaks truth to you and calls it out of you. Let's bring your best to the game today. That's how I would handle it individually with a client.
Love that, brother. So I think that's a good, call it wrap this call in constructive tension. Guys, let's take it to the next level. And taking it to the next level is, one, participating in this mastermind. If we were doing a mastermind in person, I won't let anybody get away without contributing, without engaging. But, this is virtual. I can't look you in the eyes. We've got technology to deal with. So 2 ways to engage or participate. One is to, via text, add something to either the Facebook group or the webinar. And then 2, raise your hand. We want to hear from not just the facilitators on the call, but we want to hear from you. What questions do you have, and what changes are you making in your life? So what I want to do right now is I'm going to bring Jen DuPlessis in, because she was one of the leaders that added a lot of value last week. And then, Jen, also really appreciate the contributions you've made in responding to members that have posted questions in Facebook. Cindy, prepare to go after Jen with a takeaway and a question. But Jen, why don't you go next, since you were on the call? What's the big takeaway we should focus on, and what questions do you have of the group?
Yeah, so, well, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it. I think I'm going to echo what Bill was just saying. If you've decided to join the group and invest the money that you invested for Darren, I'm hoping that it wasn't a quick decision to be included in something. This is really something that can change you and how you operate in your mortgage practice. And it comes at such a great time of the year, because for me personally, I'm already working on my 2017 business plan. So I would just echo what Bill said, and that's dive in, put both feet in, and make 100% commitment to making the changes and listening to this. If it means that you need to download everything into an MP3 and listen to it in your car 20 times while you're driving, then that's what it means that you need to do. So I would just say to really focus the effort. And this is, perfect time of the year. I mean, I'm sure for everybody else, your production is up tremendously. This has been a very stressful month, So what a perfect time to start implementing and doing some of the actions that Darren is suggesting that we take, to start making that change now, and he does say, well, maybe later on, he says, because I've been through this several times, but, habits, you can't change everything at one time. It's just little bitty baby steps, to be able to change your mindset. So take one idea and start changing it, using just maybe 2 hours or 3 hours a day that you only do one task rather than multitasking or switching. Don't try to think that you have to change your entire life. And I think that can become too much for someone to take on. And so I would just recommend that what you do is just consider doing 1 or 2 of these things, at first. So one of the questions that I have is, just asking anyone who has implemented one or any of these things, what's your stress level like? What has it done to your stress level? I'm curious to see if you've taken note of how you feel internally, and Darren says, that this is an inside job, and he uses a different word for it. I always call it, that it's an inside job to maintain and, create some calm in your life. So I'd like to hear from everybody on how not multitasking and not switching, what's that done for your stress level? Have you seen a change in it? And I think if you have, it's like an adrenaline. I mean, it's not adrenaline, it's an endorphin where you want more of it.
So Jen, this is Danny, and I can say for me, and this is good to talk to you again, Jen. For me, at the first implementations have been really uncomfortable, and I don't know if that's true for everybody, but it just shows me how addicted I have been to this. And also, like, the one piece that I can just picture in my mind is when people have come to the door of my office and said, do you have a minute? And I've said no because I really want to spend the time, and it made me really uncomfortable to like turn them away. Like I wasn't being having the open door policy I wanted to have that made people feel safe. So I'm still, I think, on the leading edge of it and in that uncomfortable phase.
Okay, so have you thought about the phraseology? I think that Darren, when he's talking to us, of course, that's one-sided, right? It's like a podcast. You just push out the words and you hope people are listening and receiving it the way that you're delivering. Have you maybe thought about different ways to soften that, rather than, no, I don't have a minute, and I'm not sure if that's what you said anyway, but no, I don't have a minute. But maybe saying, absolutely, I have a minute, but in 20 minutes, can I give you a minute?
Yeah, and the way he phrases it, I want to, you're, framing it as a value play for the person. I want to be able to focus on you, and I just need this time to finish what I'm doing so I can do that. The reception on the other side has actually been really good, and I can see how coming on the other side of it, it's just such a different approach to the way I interact with the world. Getting away from something that feels very ingrained in my personality, it's not an easy thing, and I think that's one of the important parts about what Darren's message is you have to do the hard work to get to the other side to get the reward. You can't just stop halfway through.
Yeah, that's key. And I mentioned that last week too, is, even with clients, is being able to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I got your message. So there's no, crickets on this side. I got your message, but I wanted to see if you could, if I could call you back between the hours of 2 and 4 next week. 2 and 4 later on today when I'm in front of my computer and can dedicate 100% of my attention and devotion to serving you better. And I think it's the same thing with people, the people that we're with, is that, I really want to dedicate my time to help explain this to you or show you how to do it. Would it be okay if we talked in another hour, and then I'll be 100% all attention? And I know I would prefer that personally, and I think any of us would. Then
hey, Jen, if I can just...
Yeah,
I'm so
please.
sorry. Well, I just want to chime in on something because I think you've touched on something really important. And Danny, thank you for your transparency. One of the cool things I see in this group, and if you guys would just jot this down and maybe draw a circle around it, is transparency. If we're going to improve as a group, if we're going to look at these principles and apply them, one of the things that I find critical as a coach is you just got to quit posing, right? There's no posing here. You're not up on stage trying to impress people. We're just all sitting here with our sleeves rolled up trying to become more efficient and better and the best version of ourselves that we can be, right? That's what Darren's all about. And so there's a slide in this deck on Module 3 that says, teach people how to communicate with you. And Danny and Jen, I think that's what you guys were discussing. Many of you know Callum Ross. Callum is a Canadian badass mortgage originator from Toronto who is a Harvard MBA. He makes my head spin when I listen to him. He must brew coffee with Red Bull instead of water. If you know Callum, you know what I'm talking about. And I coached him for a year several years ago, which felt like a 10-year coaching engagement, I got to tell you. And he said, here's what I did. There was a moment in time where I sat my team down and I said, you know what, you guys, I'm not serving you well. When you come to me with, Callum, have you got a minute, and I solve your problem, what I'm teaching you is you come to me with your problems and I'm not helping you to grow. So here's what I want you to do. 3 things before you come to me. Number 1, can you solve it yourself? I'm empowering you. Can you solve it yourself? Number 2, if you can't solve it yourself, is there someone else that you can solve this situation with other than me and you didn't do it yourself? And number 3, if that doesn't work, can you research a solution? And at that point, if the answer is still no, then come to me. If you think about that, it's a brilliant way to train the people around you, which is exactly what Darren's talking about in this module. And it sets them up to realize you're not sequestering yourself. You're not closing the door, Danny, that I think we all feel like we want to be available. We want to have that open door policy. What you're really doing is you're saying, I'm empowering you to become the best version of yourself while I do that here, because honestly, the thing, Danny, you're probably working on, one way or another, is rainmaking, developing relationships, doing the thing that feeds the machine, right?
Right.
And monkeys, you know, it's all about the monkeys that Darren was talking about. Is how do I get your monkey again?
Exactly.
I don't want your monkey. And I've been kind of walking around with that, saying, I just got somebody's monkey again. Yeah.
It is a great analogy. So, Cindy, I'm going to bring you in just a minute, but I wanted to address Bliss. You know, Bliss, I love the question that you posted. Jen, you gave a great response, and I also think it's pretty on point to the topic, the conversation we're having. But Bliss, did you get your question answered as completely as you want?
Well, actually, Darren, yeah, great. I'm glad you asked about that. Darren chimed in and said even it doesn't have to be one thing, and which is cool because I can focus pretty well, but sometimes, you know, it's a lot of small things that just need to get done that I've been procrastinating because maybe they're not urgent, but they're essential to my business, especially when it comes to marketing. You know, file management and new files, that's urgent, but marketing isn't urgent. So yeah, it was super helpful hearing what everybody said, and I have yet to do 90 minutes uninterrupted because you know, it's just hard, right? We're used to multitasking, so that's definitely the challenge I'm taking on, is to be completely focused without interruption for a jam session.
Right on. Well, hey, let's all make that a goal. And by the way, folks, in case you haven't noticed, Darren has been tracking this. He very much wants this program to be super successful. So your questions are being reviewed. Darren has already jumped in and added some value a couple times. And I just urge folks to engage. You know, I know personally, you know, just liking it, letting folks know that you're paying attention and you saw it, giving Darren, you know, like, hey, appreciate that, Darren. You know, make sure you guys are engaged. So we keep Darren's attention and we keep the value he's bringing. And even, you know, Jen, I mean, look at this. You know, Jen jumped in and took time out of her busy day to help Bliss. So, folks, I just want to shine a light on that. Too, let's make sure we do more of that and stay engaged. Hey, Jen, before Cindy jumps in here, is there anything you want to add, any color you want to provide to Bliss or some of the other conversations that are taking place here?
You know, I guess the one thing, I was listening to something, you know, I'm a life learner, so I'm always listening to podcasts from all segments of the market. And, you know, something that was told, and maybe this might help Bliss or anybody else too, is that to segment the things that you want to accomplish, you know, so it's one thing to say, you know, I want to work on a presentation, or I want to work on, you know, lead generating or business planning, and segmenting what you want to work on that way. But it's another thing. There's this guy who's just unbelievably successful in business generally, and what he does is he segments the activities and the tasks that he wants to do by time. So he goes, this, you know, this thing that I want to do is a 2-minute item. Another thing that I want to do is going to take an hour to do it. And so what he does is he segments it by time so that when you do decide to sit down for your 90 minutes, you can either choose the thing that will take forever and needs a full 90 minutes, or you could select a multitude of 2-minute or 3-minute things that need to get, you know, sort of finished up and moved off your plate. So I only wanted to share that because it's a little bit of a dynamic shift in the way you're looking at things, maybe not by task and type of task, but rather by the time the task takes. So if you're pushing something off, and we tend to do that, we push off the things that will take longer because we're looking for more time. Maybe you could break that up into 20-minute segments and just work on it for 20 minutes at a time. So maybe think of it in time rather than in task as another option that might work for you. You know, everybody learns differently, right? Everybody does something different, so maybe that'll help.
That's actually great input. This is Coach Bill, and I just want to mention quickly, for those of you that have not read David Allen's sort of seminal book on this topic, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity, I think his was the original thought around, if you can do it in 2 minutes or less, do it. Like, just knock it out, right? And I think to your point, at least I know I do this. I'll see an email, I think about it, and then I just leave it there, right? It's like getting a bill and setting it on your desk and not dealing with it. I mean, thankfully these days this is all done digitally, right, and it's done automatically. But if you think about an email, if you think about something that you've got to deal with, if it takes 2 minutes or less, there are windows of time where I encourage clients just knock that stuff out. You get the endorphin rush and you feel good about check marks and boxes, done, 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 and it can kind of build that, John Maxwell calls it the big mo, right, momentum. Sometimes we just need momentum. Be on the balls of your feet moving forward.
Love it. So, hey, Anna, also I'm showing Anna your Facebook post. So I want to make sure your question was answered and you feel good about that. Anything else you want to talk about there?
Yeah, it was a great response once again from Jennifer. She provided some really good information, insight, and then you can see Darren also posted something as well. It was, I think, an eye-opener for me, and that I typically at the end of the day I feel I had been feeling more stressed out, bummed, and now since I've been doing this kind of work, I feel more refreshed at the end of the day. So I've definitely gained a lot from the comments.
So there's the answer to your question about stress, Jen. That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll keep it. We'll keep it coming and keep the engagement going. So, Cindy Ertman, anything you want to add to the topic or another topic you might want to start?
Well, first of all, I love this conversation because, I mean, without question, to become a top producer and maximize your own potential, obviously we've got to learn ways to become more productive, and it's a process, it's a journey, and we make new decisions every day to get us a little bit closer to our goals. But one of the things a couple of things were coming up for me around some of the conversations that Coach Bill was sharing about reasons or results and accountability. But one of the things I was just thinking it sounds so basic and so silly, but about a year ago I started an action folder, and it seems like something I should have done 30 years ago, but I started dropping emails that really required my attention into an action folder to pull them out of my 1,000 email chain a day and get them into a separate location where when I had moments in my day, I would go directly back to the action folder and start knocking out actions. And that single task, created a lot more, I would say, I just got a lot more done throughout the day because I wasn't searching through emails like Bill said. We carry stuff around in our head that we know we need to do. So one of the things that I've learned to do over the years is it's really helped me is get things into a place where all my action items are collectively in one spot. So I can burn through those very, very quickly. Another thing that for me, and really needing to spend more time doing jam sessions and really planning on my business, I'm a big planner, but I go to bed really late at night, and I've caught myself in a cycle because I get a second wind and I can stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, and then, but at some point I need sleep and I need to work out and all that stuff. So I've started making a conscious effort to go to bed 30 minutes earlier every night and set an alarm to get up 30 minutes earlier in the morning. And I'm doing kind of my action plan before I go to bed. So I'm putting my notes down of what I want to really create in my jam sessions. So that's been helpful. And, I also think that in coaching several mortgage originators right now myself, we look at 7 key areas of people's life, and we do a 90-day plan. And the thing that I love about the 90-day plan is it gives you something to go back and begin to hold one another accountable for what your 90-day plan is. And when you're looking at, what are your 3 big overarching goals that you want to accomplish for your business in the next 90 days, and we look at 3 action steps that you need to take to accomplish each goal. And so as you're beginning to look at your plan on a daily basis, you can go back and say, gosh, I haven't done action step number 2. And the thing that I see, and I would imagine, Bill, you would agree with this, that what I see in top producers, and this is what I love about coaching top producers, they take action really quickly. They're quick to course correct if their action doesn't work, but they don't think about the action step too long. And when you guys were talking earlier, which I loved, about, letting go and allowing your team to take more accountability, I mean, I know that's a big challenge for originators because, we can all do it better than our team, but some of the things, and even in this last week with originators that have made decisions to take themselves off the group email chain and allow their team to handle the problem, and they're only the fire drill person if a file gets into a really critical space, I think is so big. And I just would really, really encourage you guys that run teams and that are really trying to grow and build your business and take it to the next level the thing that was key for me and my own origination team was learning to let go more. So I would ask really the question, and I just totally agree with Bill on this transparency piece, and Danny, I love the fact that you're just willing to put it out there and you guys are putting your questions up, but I would really like to ask you what's holding you back from making maybe the biggest decision you need to make to take your business to the next level and move the needle. Like, what's really the fear? And because most of us kind of know some of the things that we need to do, but is anybody willing to share what might be holding them back?
Love
Michelle
that.
here.
I don't want to. Michelle, go for it.
Well, hi, Cindy.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. So Cindy is my coach, so she knows a lot of what it is, but I'm happy to put myself and make myself vulnerable here. My biggest fear of letting go was that everything was going to fall apart because I thought I could do it better.
And so let's talk about that a little. Let's go a little deeper on that one, Michelle. So if you don't mind, because obviously we know some of the things that you've let go of, I mean, what's been your experience, one, personally and letting go, and what have been the results that you've experienced?
Oh my gosh, so much freedom, and I shared a little bit last week. I literally I don't know, 60 days ago thought that my world was going to end because I truly empowered my team and let everything go. And one of the beautiful things about me is I'm quick to correct when I see things going sideways. This particular one was 2 weeks of absolute chaos and pain, but we are now 60 days past that pain point where my emails do not come to me from the team anymore about all the I call it the chatter of what's going on with the loan. They know if they need me to come get me, and I love what the person shared earlier about the 3 things they need to do before they get to me. I'm going to borrow that because I think it's great. I've only actually given them 2 things to do before they get to me, and I have absolute freedom. I know this sounds sad, but I actually have taken more time for myself over the last 60 days than I ever have in the last probably 5 years of just refreshing and regrouping, and I feel like my team is empowered and can do everything now. I trust them. And if they make a mistake, we solve it. We're problem solvers. We're not blamers anymore, which is so beautiful.
Well, and Michelle, I want to give you a huge credit for that, because learning to trust your team, because your team really can't become trusted until you trust them. You know, is what I learned. And I've watched you do this. I've watched you do it in such a profound way, and Michelle is definitely just awesome at making a very quick decision and makes quick, very impactful changes with her team, and has done just an extraordinary job of really learning to let go, empowering her team, and allowing herself to be really in her own area of passion and expertise. I mean, Michelle is a make-rain person all day long. She's a structure person. She can do it all, but the fact that you've let go has been so big. So thank you for sharing. I think that's huge for people to really hear that a top producer is willing to empower their team, get off the email chain, and focus on what you're best at. It's awesome.
Anybody else want to share? Transparency.
This is Kristen Messerly. I just wanted to share a little bit about my struggles and challenges with the last couple of modules. It's great hearing all of your tips as I'm going along. I'm taking notes of some of the things that you've been saying, but I absolutely love efficiency. I mean, I can't even brush my teeth without listening to a podcast or something. Keyboard shortcuts are my favorite thing. So the last couple of modules, I've realized that I wasn't actually being efficient. And so when he talked about having, just take one, implement some of these things, I was like, let's try 1 hour because this is so difficult for me. But yesterday I started implementing this and realized that I needed new processes. Like the email, I mean, I took myself off of email, which was super, super helpful. I didn't realize how much that was like limiting my productivity, but also just kind of learning how to, like the action folder thing was really a helpful thing for me, using blocking time, but also relying on my assistant and creating lists and that kind of thing, because I realized I was very reactive to everything. So when something came up, I just took care of it right away instead of focusing on whatever work I was supposed to get done. So I think this will help my productivity quite a bit, and I would love to hear, I'll post in the Facebook group too, but love to hear more of those kinds of tips for getting those processes and organization in place.
Well, that's awesome. It's great that you're taking so many action steps, Kristen. That's cool. How have you felt since you got off the email train?
I felt it was very uncomfortable. So, as someone else mentioned earlier, it was just like, oh, but someone might be saying something. It's hard for, I mean, even from day one in this whole training, coming off of technology so much, I am very, like, try to be very active on social media and realize that some of that was not helping me. So, so just kind of learning to be okay with that silence is, but I've also, yesterday I got more done than I've done in a long time. My employee and I both worked on this together, and we just knocked out tons of work. So it's already working.
So,
Hey, Cindy, one of the...
Oh,
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bill. It's okay.
No, it's just, Cindy, you touched on something. You touched on a lot there, so thank you so much for being here. I love your contribution, Cindy. I love your clarity around what's worked for you and how you're bringing that now to the coach's chair. I dig it. I love hearing you talk. So,
thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. I mean it with all my heart. And one of the things you touched on, I think most people can relate to, but we don't talk about it a lot. And it's what I call in coaching sessions your bookends. So we all have bookends to our day. Darren refers very specifically in Module 3 to the morning routine. And for those of you that have been exposed to Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL, and his book Extreme Ownership, you see his posts coming up with his 4:30 a.m. posts, right? And Andrew Paul, Danny, one of your neighbors down there in San Diego, is doing the same thing, another Navy SEAL in the mortgage industry. You know, I get up at 5, and, you know, I'll tell you at 61, that's probably not the thing I want to do, but it's become a habit. Like, I just wake up at 5 now, so that's what happens. But in order to do that, I go to bed at 9. Like, I go to bed at 9 p.m. So my whole world is structured around the maximum efficiency during the time that I choose to work. So my question for everybody is, like, how would you grade yourself as you look at your bookends and your intentionality about when you go to bed and when you wake up, just on that structure? I'd love to hear people answer, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, I am all over it. I've got perfect structure. It's deliberate, and that's how I do it. And 1 is, oh, yeah, no, coach, I need a lot of work there. Anybody want to chime in on that, on your bookends?
Michelle Town here. I'm a 1.
Thanks for your honesty.
Yeah, I'd probably put myself at a 1 status also. It just feels like my mornings and evenings are complete chaos and totally inconsistent.
Interesting. Oh, sorry, I was talking out loud. It's Jen. I was thinking out loud, I should say.
Go ahead, Jen. Think out loud.
Well, you know, we talked about this last week too. You know, is you can think about. I think we just draw in from all of our experiences, right? So, The Miracle Morning is an incredible book. It's very simple, but it's an incredible book. And you know, I'd have to say that, you know, I'm at a 9.5 now at this, because you have to get to the point where you're just real stingy about your time, and it's not vindictive toward anyone, but you know, being more cognizant of the fact that you need to have that rest and relaxation, which is what is addressed in Module 4, but that rest and relaxation, the sharpening the axe, you know, where you take time to you know, settle into your entire day and analyze, you know, what went right, what went wrong, how can I do things. We tend to, you know, this, you've all heard this before, you know, this working in your business versus on your business, but it's so true. That's why we have these phrases and these quotes, is they're so true. If you're just running 100 miles an hour all the time and you're not taking out time to take care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, you know, there's 2 different pieces to that, taking care of your family and your relationships, then, you know, why is it that divorce is so big in our industry? You know, it's really, and I'm proud to say I've been married for 33 years because we take the time to take care of ourselves. So getting up early in the morning and having an hour to think through things, you know, to visualize and to, you know, write, dictate if that's what you need to do, read affirmations, and then doing the same thing in the evening, taking time to be able to do that. I think is so critical. And I want to, if you don't mind, I just want to go back to something that Michelle was saying, and I'm sure everybody's doing this. What we fail to see is that when we are trying to do everything, and we don't have, and I'm a coach too, and I coach loan officers for this very same thing. What we don't see is that you trying to do all these things and be all these people, and so much of this is sort of having a chip on your shoulder without knowing you actually have it. It's saying that they want me. The reason that I'm getting the business is because of me. And really, the reason you're getting the business is because you've set up a system that provides them with a wow experience. And you just need to duplicate that system by utilizing other people, because in fact, instead of you acting I say this all the time to people in coaching, you think you can do it better, but you can't. You're actually functioning between 40 and 60% of that one thing because you're not focused on it. So I'd rather have an assistant who does it 80% than me thinking that I'm doing it 100% when in fact I'm only at 40. And so I want you to think through that. So when you think you got it all handled, you're doing everything, and nobody can do it as good as you. Think about how well you actually are doing it. And that will be one of the things that perpetuates you to say, you know what, I need to surround myself with a team that they actually do it better than me. And can you imagine how your business will grow when what you're doing now turns into something even better? And that's usually what happens. If you're, hitting a ceiling of, 5, 10, whatever number of loans, and you just want to get to 12, watch out, because you'll go from 10 to 17 because it's that much better.
Well, Jen, it's Cindy, you touch on a really important point here. I so agree with you on this conversation. And I also see that one of the places where I think loan officers get stuck is around training their people, because they don't get there by themselves. And it's always hard because you're so busy. It's so hard to pull yourself out of the mix to take the time to train them. But the way to get people to be you, I had a loan coordinator for many years sit in my office with me. And she literally became a clone of me. She became the mini-me, and she went on to become my partner for many years. But it was incredible to really teach and train her from the first conversation to how I led a pre-qual and to have her hear over and over and over the engagement with the client. So I also think a big part of creating that team that's better than you is to take the time to really train them properly, because I do see that being a really weak link between teams. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know, Michelle, you've had to do a lot of that as well.
Yes, I have done a lot of that, and I love what Jen just said, which was I thought people came to do business with me because of me, and they come to do business with me because of the systems that I've set up, and that is so profound, and it's so important to realize. And I never realized how much of an ego I had until I started having it deflated. And it was amazing to kind of, I relate it to my horses because I'm a horse girl. I am not great at riding a horse. I have to work at it. But those horses teach me every day. If I don't show up present, if I've got work on my mind, I get hurt. And so I try to put that into my business as well. When I come and sit down in front of my computer, I've got to be present in the moment. And I've got to realize that the reason why I'm successful right now is not because of me. It's because of the team that supports me.
So here's a great example of that, you guys. Look at what we're going through right now. If Darren thought that the only way that he could be productive was to be face-to-face with you, he would be limited as to his scope, right, and his reach and what he could do. And what he's done is he's created systems that allows him right now to impact the 20 of us in a very significant way, while as far as we know, he's having the mimosa in La Jolla. Right? I mean, look at what's happening right now as a result of the systems and the training. He's created fantastic systems that are worth it for all of us to engage with. And that's exactly what we just heard Jen and Michelle describe, and Cindy as well. You know, there's a guy that many of you have been exposed to through Mortgage Coach named Josh Metal. And years ago, I was coaching Josh, and this is before Dodd-Frank, and he asked me, he said, you know, Coach, I want to figure out what my most profitable loan is, and I want to do more of those. Great question. So he landed on physicians, and he's created a $300 million a year production machine now based on serving physicians in all 50 states. But he wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He does exactly what Darren calls calibrating, where he reviews it in his business plan every single day. At the end of his day, at 5:30 on his calendar, it says, adios, go home, dinner is waiting, because he and his wife Hillary had a very specific conversation about, dude, you're not here with the kids when we're putting them to bed. I need you here. And he took a 90-day sabbatical 2 years ago and went to Southeast Asia, and the machine kept running. Like, how do you do that without the very things that Darren is talking about here? So if you need any further social proof of this working, there's a fantastic example from your own, environment.
Guys, this is such a beautiful conversation. I just took, as I told everybody, I'm with Danny here in a hotel in Portland, and he's just been taking copious notes. I just took a picture of him and shared him on Facebook. Danny, thanks for being so transparent. So what a great community we have on this call. I do urge folks, if you are also taking some notes and you want to be transparent, and take a picture of them, add them in comments. I committed to this project of doing this, this mastermind, because I knew we had an amazing community. When I look at the leaders that are on today's call, Coach Bill Hart, Cindy Ertman, Jen, we've got Kristen, we've got such an amazing community of leaders. And then when I look on the other side of all the attendees, we've got just some of the most successful and most professionals in the business. And we're all here being transparent, getting better together. So, high fives to everyone. Please continue to keep this sharing going on. I want to give the audience a chance, if anybody hasn't been called on and you have a question that you want to ask, or something that you want to just share, something you've had, I'd like to just give a call out to anybody who wants to jump in and share. If you have been muted, raise your hand and go to webinar, and we'll unmute you. But we may have had to mute you because we were getting some feedback. So I'm going to take a minute. Anybody want to ask a question or share at this point?
I have a quick question, Dave. Dave, I have a quick question. This is Bliss. Is anyone else in the group going to the September 29th and 30th Insane Productivity in San Diego? If so, I thought it might be fun for us to meet together, kind of our own little subgroup of mortgage people.
I am not.
One, great idea. Two, anyone going?
It's okay. I don't need friends, Dave. I can go by myself.
Hey, first of all, let's realize that we only gave them about 10 seconds. Number two, why don't you post that? Why don't you post that on Facebook? Let's see if anybody collaborates, and then I'll shine a light on that next week. I love the idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I'll continue to have that conversation for a few weeks, and let's see if we can get some folks from our community there and have an experience together. I'm even going to see if I can put it into my own calendar.
Well, because what I love is that we're all in the same industry, and that's super helpful to share ideas where we understand what we live and breathe every day. So awesome.
I know their tickets were sold out when I looked into it, so if people can't make it for this one, then I definitely think that would be a good idea to put together a group for his next one.
I think they just opened up a few more tickets, actually, because they were sold out, and I got in on a new set just recently. So just check into it if you guys are interested.
Well, again, Bliss, let's post that, and also get Darren engaged. And I can't speak for Darren, and I don't know what they have, but I do know we can look at it and see if he can, open up tickets for our group if anybody wants to go. So, Bliss, if you could start that conversation on Facebook, I'll keep it going, and I'll get Darren engaged. So, anybody else? I want to make sure everybody who's on this call has the chance to participate, ask a question, share a story. Anyone else?
Dave, can you hear me?
Michelle here. Oh, sorry. I'll let him.
Whoever jumped in, go ahead.
Yeah. This is Jim Spreyer in Sacramento. I wanted to jump in. Joined this effort just because I've been in this business quite a while, but I've never really kind of gotten over the hump. Want to be able to grow a team, want to get more focused, and I'm not saying much, but I'm taking in a lot. This is really, really great stuff. I am taking lots of notes, and just want to know how much I appreciate this, and I'm getting a lot out of it.
Hey, Jim, you getting a lot out of it and participating is why we're doing it. So thanks for sharing, brother. And look forward to, maybe hearing a success story or something that you stopped doing or something that you started doing as a result of this educational journey. Keep it coming, buddy.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Someone else was going to share before Jim jumped in. Who else?
Yeah, Michelle. How are you?
Hey, Michelle.
I'm looking at, so Module 3. I'm really doing some implementations on that, but I'm struggling a little bit and would love any kind of insight that anybody can give. And it is with to do with the realtors. I am trying to tell my realtors, or I guess I'm not trying hard enough, but my realtors want me right away. They don't want me to wait and tell them that I can call them back in an hour and answer their questions, when I have more free time for them. They want answers right away. And I'm struggling with how, especially on Sundays, that's my one day that I'm not supposed to be working, but I tend to answer my phone calls. So I'm open to any suggestions for anybody who can help take this Insane Productions and apply it to this for me.
Great. Who wants to field that?
Well, Michelle,
yeah, I was going to say, how about somebody on the, listening in too, if they have suggestions as well. Sorry, Cindy.
No, actually, Michelle, one thing I was just going to suggest.
Hey, guys, hey, real quick, by the way, I kind of I nodded Danny, bro, jump in. He's like, I got the same problem. He kind of puts up his arms and he's like, I'm not qualified to comment. So come on, someone's got to have an answer here.
That's not true.
Well, I was just going to share, this is Cindy, that one of the things that I had to do, particularly when my kids were in sports, because I was in crazy part of my career and was getting calls all day on Saturday and all day on Sunday, and I started changing my voicemail on the weekends on my cell phone. And I just said, I'm available this weekend to take your call. I'm so looking forward to communicating with you. Please leave me your name and number. I'm going to be unavailable from this time to this time, and I'll be getting back to you, from this time to this time. But it let them know I was here. It let them know I was getting the message, so they're not in the abyss. But I would, if I wanted to participate in my kids' sporting events, which I just was not willing to miss and sit on the sidelines of soccer and answer the phone all day, so it doesn't matter what the reason is, whether you're with your horse or whether you want to take a Sunday off, or, but I think it's a really valid point. But I think that it's not that hard to change your voicemail, and it worked really effectively for me for many years.
Hey, Michelle, it's Bill. And if I can just give just a little anecdotal research evidence, I've interviewed top producing realtors, agents that have done an average of 150 units a year for the last 20 years. And at the end of the interview, I've always asked them the same question: why do you do business with the lender or lenders that you do? And I think a handful have ever said anything about response time. And if I dig deeper and I say, so when you say response time, as long as there's a system set up around that, a team member, somebody that can respond, nobody's ever pushed back and said, oh no, I need that person, I need Michelle, I need Cindy. Nobody's ever said that. So the first place I would start is, I think we have to recognize, and I was a realtor, so I'm not just calling out realtors here, right? I was a realtor before I became a lender, before I became a coach. I've been in that world. Their chaos doesn't need to become your chaos. They're out of control, and so they often want you to be out of control. Michelle, this may not be the case with you. You may have fantastic agents, and they all perform at a very high level. But my experience is that's generally not the case. Generally, we all have, all of you, I'm not currently in the business, all of you have some agents with some degree of just chaos in their life. And so they expect, because they're available 24/7, that you should be available 24/7. And I'm going to suggest that you draw some lines in the sand about the partners that you choose to work with, and look for people that would instead rather meet you where you are in terms of building systems, building teams, creating a way to best serve them. But remember, the 25-year-old kid working at Wells Fargo today, sitting at the desk in the retail branch, is probably going to be available 24/7. That's not who you guys are as professionals. So don't compete at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Love
this
it.
is Jen.
So
This is Jen. Oh, go ahead. Were you going to tidy
up?
up?
No, you go ahead. You realize we're in the last 3 minutes.
Yep,
So,
I see that we are. We talked about this last week, so I'm not going to reiterate everything. All of us have access to all of the weekly calls. Just go back into last week and talk about it, because I talked last week about the difference between being on demand and in demand. And really the important thing here is that you're elevating yourself. I echo everything that Bill said. Elevate yourself to a point where you're in demand. And you're not somebody's, beck and call, and you're not a cat on a marble floor. And, truly the people that have that chaos, we will learn in, well, actually we've learned, I think it was module 1 or 2, where Darren talks about, who's going to attend your funeral,
So
surrounding yourself with the people that are going to mean something in your business, and not. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Hey, Jen, there's something going on with your connection.
I can hear you, Jen.
Coming in now.
Oh, can you hear me okay? Or no? Anybody?
You sound good to me.
I hear you, Jen.
Okay, well, I'll just keep going. But anyway, remember that there's one of us and there's 1,000 of these realtors out there. You just got to find the one who's going to have the right, that you guys are going to be able to work together and you're going to mesh together. You don't have to work with every single realtor. And if they're going to create chaos and stress in your life, it's time to move on and find someone who is going to be a true partner for you.
No doubt. Amen to that. So, folks, we are at the top of the hour. I hope this has been a valuable hour of time for everybody. I want to urge people to engage and comment on our Facebook private group. I want to urge you to share your notes. One of the, here at Mortgage Coach, everybody knows that we are dedicated to every family getting a total cost analysis. I mean, not only is that something that's incredibly valuable to the family, but call it almost the ultimate insane productivity strategy. The difference between quoting rates and fees, doing pre-quals, old school, or giving that family a total cost analysis. It's a super powerful strategy. I did post a video that's a highlight from an interview I did with Wally Elderberry earlier in the year. So I do urge you to listen to that. It's just, inspirational leadership with Wally. And I do want to talk in the coming weeks around folks, is every single family that you serve getting a total cost analysis? Because it is an insane productivity strategy. So I do want to tee that up for the next couple weeks. With that said, grateful for all the collaboration. It's just been magical, the number of folks that we have showing up to this call, the amount of engagement, the quality of the interaction. We are at the top of the hour. Bill Hart, any final words as a coach, putting a bookend on this mastermind session? Any final thoughts that you want to put as we wrap up today's call?
Dave, I would really just reiterate, and I'm sensing a higher degree of engagement. Like, really, if you're going to be in, you guys be all in. Don't. I would ask you to future your thinking. A year from now, what's changed in your life as a result, professionally and personally, as a result of fully engaging in this program? Versus a year from now, I look back and, like you said, Dave, yeah, it's something I did, and I sort of showed up for some stuff, and I don't do that. If you're going to do this, be all in. We're already hearing fantastic results from people, so be encouraged by those. Even if you're just out there lurking and listening, be encouraged, but be all in.
I love it. And folks, for those of you that are getting results, share those results. Let us know what results you're getting, what changes you're making. It fires everybody up. Nothing better than being part of a group like this where people make change. have an awesome weekend, everybody. I know, like me, some of us have kids either have gone back to school or going back to school. So everybody who's in that wheelhouse like I am, have an awesome weekend. Make it a big weekend. Take care, everybody.